Let's take a look at how to write a definition. Definitions are very common. Often we'll even start a piece of work with a definition, so it's good to get off to a good start. There is a formula we can use for writing a definition that usually works quite well. And so we consider a definition to have three parts. The first part is the term that's being defined, so the thing that we're defining. The second part then is the class of object or concept that it belongs to. So it belongs in a class of things. What is that class? And finally then we need to identify the distinguishing factors that will differentiate the thing we're defining from the other things in the class. So the best way to look at how this works is to try to come up with something. So let's see if here we can come up with a definition for a goldfish. So if we're defining a goldfish and we're following the formula, we start with the term that we're defining. So we say a goldfish is. And as a general rule, if you're defining something, you want to start with the thing you're defining. If you're defining a goldfish, well, the first three words out of your mouth probably should be a goldfish is. And so this here is the term. Now, the next part then we have to address is what class of object or what class of concept is it? And this can be tricky and raises a number of questions. So certainly a goldfish is, a living thing. But the question we have to ask here is how much knowledge can we assume that the person reading the definition has? How specific do we have to be? How technical can we be? I think here that, living organism just is a bit too broad. I mean, if we start with all living things, it could take us a while to narrow down just to the fish and then get to the, goldfish. Similarly, an animal, a goldfish is an animal. Excuse the typo there. But, I think it's safe enough to say that a goldfish is a fish. I think saying that it's a fish is not demanding too much of the person reading the definition. Now, this can feel a bit unsatisfactory. If we're saying a goldfish is a fish that's gold, that's not going to work for us. And so you have to be very careful when you are writing a definition that you don't end up writing like a circular definition where you're just saying, the thing is the thing. That doesn't really help. So you have to be careful, but I don't think we need to be too careful. I think saying it's a fish is fair enough. I think that's not getting too vague or too technical, And we can save this then, because we're going to say after what will differentiate this goldfish from all the other things in the class of fish. So, a goldfish is a fish that what? Well, we could say a goldfish is a fish that is orange. And what else? Well, we could say and small. Those are the defining characteristics, I think, of a goldfish. What else can we say about a goldfish? I think we could say that it's kept as a pet. Like, I know it's not like not all goldfish are pets, but I do think that being kept as pets is somehow sort of the essence of a goldfish. It kind of separates it from the other fish. There are lots of fish. There are probably even lots of orange small fish, but, I do think that the fact that people keep goldfish in their houses in little bowls, like that's part of what it is to be a goldfish, I think. I suppose if we wanted to be more complete, we could say, that it is also kept for decorative purposes. Maybe that's true too. So not a pet, but kind of for decoration. So we could say a goldfish is a fish that is orange and small and kept as a pet or for decorative purposes. So I think we've kind of captured all of the things we might say about a goldfish here. I think we have narrowed it down enough. But now we do need to tidy this up, obviously. I mean, are all goldfish kept as pets? Like, or are they for decorative purposes? Like, does that apply to all goldfish? I mean, if a goldfish isn't kept as a pet, is it still a goldfish? Maybe it's not fair to say that all goldfish are kept as pets or for decorative purposes. So we could maybe say, and typically kept as a pet or for decorative purposes. I mean, that's maybe more accurate. Let's tidy this up now. We can say a goldfish is a small orange fish that is typically kept as a pet or for decorative purposes. So just the way English syntax works here, it doesn't make sense to say that a goldfish is a fish that is orange and small, and we can just say small orange fish, and that's qualifying it there, even though it comes before the noun. Native English speakers don't even notice this typically, but there's actually an correct adjective order. If we were to say a goldfish is an orange small fish, straight away that would sound wrong to a native English speaker's ears. But if you'd asked a native English speaker, do they come in a particular order? They'd probably say no, you can list them in any order, but clearly you can't. So small orange. So the size comes first and then the colour. So that's close enough, I think. A goldfish is a small orange fish that is typically kept as a pet or for decorative purposes. I got two other definitions here just to see how they dealt with it. So this very short one here on the right is a small orange carp often kept in ponds and tanks. So I think the person that wrote this definition here agreed with me that there's something about goldfishness that involves being, kept in a little goldfish bowl. Somehow that's part of being a goldfish, even though it's not a property of the fish itself, and a goldfish that's not in a goldfish bowl is still a goldfish. But somehow the concept of a goldfish, I think, and the idea of a goldfish definitely involves being in that little goldfish bowl. Is a goldfish orange? I think so. This second definition here on the bottom went for a small reddish golden. Yeah, I mean, that kind of works too. Okay. And they both mentioned that the fish is a carp. I actually think, I wonder if you don't know what a goldfish is, do you know what a carp is? I don't know. I think I prefer not calling it a carp. And again, even the definition at the bottom did feel like it was necessary to capture the idea that a goldfish is kept in a goldfish bowl or a tank. Even though it's not necessarily always that way, it is part of the being a goldfish. Following on then, the one at the bottom did mention that it comes in different forms and colours. And of course that's true too. You can probably have black goldfish and still be a goldfish. You probably have yellow and white goldfish and they're still goldfish. But at the same time then, saying, a goldfish is a small fish of any colour, well, that doesn't quite capture it either. But anyway, I think we've got the essence here of being a goldfish, and the important thing here is the formula. We start with the term, then we identify the class of things it belongs to, and then we specify how the thing we're defining is different from the rest of the class. So we narrow it down, we qualify it, we get more specific. Now, someone in my house watched this movie recently and asked me what the term breadwinner meant. And I realised that it's not a term you actually hear very often anymore, I guess because it has a bit of baggage. But I thought it'd be an interesting one to try. So again, the formula is the term, the class, and the differentiating characteristics. So the first thing we'll say is a breadwinner is. So what is a breadwinner? Well, it's a person, isn't it? So we'll say a breadwinner is a person that. We don't use that for people, of course. So we'll say a breadwinner is a person who. That is for objects. No. So a breadwinner is a person who earns money to support his family. I mean, that's kind of half a stab at it there. And we're kind of getting the gist of it. Now, of course, the first problem we have with this is that it's gender specific. So, I mean, it can be a woman as well, obviously. So a breadwinner is a person who earns money to support his or her family. Now, it doesn't quite capture what we mean, though, when we use the term breadwinner. So I think one of the things that's sort of implied when we use the term breadwinner, which of course is one of the reasons why we don't use the term very much anymore, is the idea that there's this one person that's earning the money for the family. And in many homes now, there's obviously more than one. And even when I suppose both parents in a family might be earning money, the breadwinner is kind of the one that earns the most. There's this idea that one is earning a lot and the other's only earning a little. Do you know there's this imbalance there as well? Which again is one of the reasons why we don't hear the term very often. But we have to try and catch that essence, I think, if we want to define the term breadwinner properly. So I think if we would say a breadwinner is the person who earns money to support his or her family. I mean, saying the as opposed to a does suggest that there's a bit more emphasis there. There's just, the main breadwinner. I think definitely the change between the a and the there does make a difference, but we're still not quite there, sure we're not. I think the breadwinner is the person who earns the most, who earns the bulk of the money. So we could say a breadwinner is that person who earns the majority of the money to support his or her family. I think we're nearly there. I think we said a breadwinner is the person who earns the majority of the money to support a family. Now, this isn't as specific actually because, of course, according to this definition, a breadwinner could be a person who's earning the majority of the money for some other family. But I think it's understood that it's the person in the family earning the majority of the money for his or her family. So we're kind of there again. But the important thing here now is the formula. So we start with the term we're trying to define, a breadwinner, the class of object or concept that the thing belongs to. So a breadwinner is a person. And then we identify the defining characteristics and the distinguishing characteristics of the thing. So in this case, it's who earns the majority of the money to support a family. So let's take a look and see how our definition compares with some here I've found elsewhere. So on the right here we have breadwinner, a person who earns money to support their family. The crafter of this definition has dodged the his or her bullet by using the plural there, even though it's a person. There's a school of thought that says that's grammatically incorrect. There's another school of thought that says, look, English is the way it is and we have to resort to this rather than be sexist. His or her is clearly clumsy. There's a whole big conversation to be had there that we're not going to have right now. I do think this short definition does fail to capture the importance of the breadwinner as sort of the main one person earning the money for the family. This definition doesn't quite capture it here. Let's have a look at the next one here. A person who earns money to support their family. Again, there is plural and it's only one person. Bit of a fudge there in terms of the gender thing. But interesting, look, it's added, comma, typically the sole one. So the crafter of this particular definition also felt it was important to identify that the breadwinner is pretty much usually the one person that does that. It's your turn now. So think up some random things and try and write a definition.